thank you, first of all. We actually have some people here that want to hear about what we're doing at the Postgres Europe Diversity Task Force. One of the things that we spoke about during the Community Summit on Tuesday, was that Tuesday already? Was the fact that anything with diversity in the title seems to be a kind of instant red flag to a lot of people. People are therefore not interested in coming, so I'm going to think about doing a rebrand and a renaming of the talk and think of some clever way to encourage people to come in and listen. But in any case, thank you very much for being here. So, you may or may not already know that Postgres Europe created a diversity task force last year in 2024. But why did we create the diversity task force? Who's working on it? What are we doing? And how can you get involved? And maybe more importantly, how can we help you? First, and very briefly, what actually is diversity? So, as I mentioned a minute ago, that poor little word has had quite a lot of bad press recently. But in a nutshell, it just means variety. It means having including people that have different cultures, different races and other things in your group or organization. So often when people say diversity, we think immediately of gender and race, and obviously those are really important, but diversity is also about all sorts of other things. It's your work experience and your current job role, how and where you grew up, the language you speak, whether or not you have children or other caring responsibilities, any physical disabilities or neurological differences you might have, your educational background, and much, much more. So there are so many different things that bring variety to our community and that make each of us unique. I'm not going to talk very much about what diversity is. I've put up a slide there for Stacey's talk where she's going to attempt to teach us everything there is to know about diversity in 25 minutes, which is a very ambitious thing to do, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so the first question, why do we have a diversity task force? It's no secret that there are challenges in terms of diversity across the entire tech industry, and the Postgres community isn't immune from that. But diversity has been shown to be good for everyone, not just for those who are currently underrepresented. And we know that diverse people bring unique views, unique skills that make the Postgres project better for all of us. It's important that everybody feels welcomed, included, and valued within our community. My experience is that the majority of people in our community feel the same way, genuinely believe that, which is fantastic, but there are a lot of things that all of us can do to actually make that a reality. So this doesn't work so well in a small group, but perhaps try it when you're in one of the other sessions. So if you take a look around you, and if most of the people look a lot like you, try and imagine how it might feel to be one of those people that doesn't look a lot like you. So, for example, if the team organizing an event looks like this, and if the speaker lineup looks like this, and this is a very recent real example, it's easy to see why not everyone feels represented or included. And it's easy to see how we might unconsciously be giving more opportunities to people like us, and therefore we continually get feedback that supports our own existing biases. And it's really important for me to say here, this is not a criticism of the people that put on events, the people that organize Postgres conferences, because these are volunteers. They generously give up their free time, their energy. They work extremely hard to put on events for the benefit of the entire community, often with little thanks or reward. And I am very, very grateful for the work that they all do. So the idea is to help organizing teams, to provide them with tools, resources, guidelines, and anything else that they need so that they can work towards getting more diversity in their organisation teams, in their volunteer teams, their speaker lineups, and their audience. It's all about reaching out to and welcoming in new people, and not about shutting out any of the amazing people that are already here. So who's working on this? Let me introduce the Diversity Committee. These are the folks who are doing the initial work to put in place and oversee the PGEU diversity initiatives, and the idea is that they will then be carried forward by the whole community. This photo was taken at PGConf EU 2024, where we had our kick-off meeting. So, as with most people in the Postgres community, I wear multiple hats. In my day job, I'm a senior architect at Crunchy Data, and I have to say a big thank you to Crunchy Data for supporting me and allowing me to give back to the community and to spend time working on this kind of thing. So in my job, I help my customers with their database environments, designing, implementing, maintaining their database environments. And I talk about databases at Postgres events and also at developer events, so I can spread the love for Postgres outside of the Postgres community. I'm on the Postgres Europe board, and I'm chairing the Postgres Europe Diversity Committee. Stacey Hazler, also wearer of many hats, including the literal one in her photo here, has kindly joined us in an advisory capacity. So she's sharing the experience and knowledge that she has from putting in place similar initiatives in other communities. Stacey, as many of you already know, is president of the US PostgreSQL Association, PGUS, and creator of the original PostgreSQL Community Code of Conduct. We also have Valeria, who helps to organise community conferences. She's part of Funds Group and chair of PGUS User Group Committee. Stephanie, who's a long-time database and web developer. She's been active in the Postgres community for many years. She gives talks, writes extensions, selection committees, and she provides technical support in user groups. We have Flor, who's an open source community advocate. So as well as her boundless energy and enthusiasm, Flor brings experience from other tech communities. She's on the PostgreSQL Code of Conduct Committee, and she organises PG Day Lowlands. Jimmy, who's a systems and database architect, Postgres conference organiser, volunteer and speaker, and also PostgreSQL book author. And Flavio, long-time Postgres DBA, who's a staff infrastructure engineer at Le Bon Coin, where he participates in an in-company diversity group. He's also treasurer of the PostgreSQL FR Association. And Gulcin, who figures in the group photo, launched and organises the Diva Dive into AI event. She's co-founder and organiser of the Prague PostgreSQL meetup. Unfortunately for us, Gulcin has had to step down from the committee because she has too many other commitments, but she's still actively working on increasing diversity in Postgres and in tech in general. So I'll take the opportunity to thank Gulcin for the work that she did to help us during the first months of the task force. But of course, diversity and inclusion is not something that can just be implemented by a committee or by a task force. Everyone in the community has a role to play. Everybody can make a difference in their own way. You obviously don't need our permission or our blessing to implement anything to improve diversity and inclusion. But if there's anything that we can do to help with something that you want to implement, if you want to let us know about something that you're doing, if you want us to help you get the word out about your initiative, then please feel free to come and talk to us and see what we can do together. What have we done so far, and what are our plans? Okay, so we're always told that we need SMART goals for our project: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Increased diversity in the PGEU community is a worthy goal, but it's not a SMART goal. It's not even particularly specific. But as luck would have it, defining the first specific goal of the task force was actually quite simple, because here's how I remember the conversation going when I joined the PGEU board at the beginning of 2024. Board, we need a diversity task force. Any volunteers to run it? Me, maybe. before I commit to anything, what are the objectives of the Diversity Task Force? Board? Okay, objective number 1, define the objectives of the Diversity Task Force. Cool. The rest of the goals would have to wait until we've done that. So we split the goals into 2 phases. We thought, okay, the first phase will be the research phase where we'll identify where we actually need to improve things. We'll talk to the community, ask what they actually want from us. We'll figure out an initial budget for the work that we want to do and identify metrics to measure progress. I agreed to do this first phase of the project, but I seem to have just kind of carried on doing the rest of it. So if anybody wants to take over, then I am very happy to pass on the reins at any time. We hit another sticking point at the measurable part. So we're data people. We want to be able to quantify where we're starting from, what the issues are, and we want concrete ways to measure progress. To do that, we need stats, numbers, metrics, but we don't have any of those at the moment. We can look around us and we can see that we have a lack of diversity, and we can listen to people's experiences and we can understand how some of the things that we're currently doing could be improved, but we don't actually collect any kind of demographic information. So we are working on making changes to the conference system that will let us collect some of the information that will help us there on an anonymous voluntary basis. But we're not sitting around waiting for that information before we get started, of course. In the meantime, we're focusing on the A, attainable. We're looking at the things that we can achieve, the things that we can actually do something about, and things that we know will benefit the community as a whole, whether or not we can measure their impact. So we've chosen to focus on inclusion and accessibility, making our community and our events as welcoming as possible to as many people as possible, which helps, of course, towards our goal of increasing diversity. We're setting short-term goals as we go along and as we learn about what does and doesn't work, as we get more idea from the community about what's needed, and as we try to fit the Diversity Task Force work around all of the committee members' other commitments. So we worked to get the task force up and running for PGConf EU 2024. We got our initial plans and budget in place for the end of 2024 so that we could start actively working on things. And we're working to get as many initiatives in place as we can for PGConf EU 2025. Some of our achievements so far. Every project needs stickers, of course. So one of the first things we did was to design a Diversity Task Force logo and have some shiny stickers printed. I have a few left, so I can hand some of those out. But of course, the new batch arrived at my house 2 days after I left for the conference. So if you're interested in the process behind the design of the logo, the meaning behind the colors, etc., there's a whole page on the PGEU website about it. So we did quite a lot of behind-the-scenes research, planning, setting up infrastructure. We drew up and agreed a budget with the PGEU board. We set up the first diversity celebration board at PGConf EU. You can see that up there on the slide. And that was quite popular and quite fun. And even the people that didn't want to leave a little message or picture on the board would pass by and have a little look and a read so that they could see some of the things that make the members of our community unique. We've already distributed tickets for various conferences, and we've updated and shared guidelines for CFP committees. We recently published our first annual report, and we have committed to publishing an interim report every 3 months, as well as each annual report, so we can keep the community up to date. So you're very welcome, of course, to go and read that. Plans. We have some specific plans. Some of them are already underway. So, for example, setting up a scholarship scheme for conference attendance. So folks can already apply. We do have a budget for that. Folks can already apply, even though we don't yet have the full formal application process in place. starting a dialogue with conference organisers to offer help and resources. We are in the process of joining the Hidden Disabilities, the Sunflower Scheme, so the scheme that makes these lanyards available so that we can make conference organisers and volunteers aware of the needs of people with hidden disabilities, provide lanyards, assistance and reassurance to conference attendees. And we're planning to provide diversity training for conference organisers and volunteers. We've got plenty of other ideas. But the actual detailed plans for the future will depend on feedback and requests from the community and especially on volunteers willing to help, because it's quite a lot of work to put in place a lot of these initiatives. Rather than work alone and reinvent the wheel, we're joining forces with and supporting the efforts of other groups, also learning from what they're doing, both within the Postgres community and beyond. So a couple of examples of that are the PGUS Diversity Committee, so they've already got a successful scholarship program in place, and Postgres Women India, who held their for Data Summit at the beginning of this year, and there are some stats there about it. It was a very successful event, and I encourage you to follow what they're doing because it's very inspiring. Both of those groups have a poster out in the hallway. We also have a PGEU Diversity Task Force poster out there, so feel free to go and have a look at those and read about what they're all doing. Okay, so hopefully now you're wondering, how can I help? How can I be involved? How can I learn more about what's being done? There are plenty of ways to contact us. You can email your ideas, comments and questions to the committee. You can request an invitation to join the Telegram group where we talk about all things diversity in the Postgres community. You can consider becoming a PGEU member if you're a resident in Europe, and generally spread the word about the Diversity Task Force. But you don't need to dedicate lots of time to diversity initiatives, and you don't have to get involved in any official Diversity Task Force work. There are lots of simple, everyday things you can do that will help to make the community more inclusive and welcoming, and therefore help to increase diversity. Things like being conscious of using inclusive language, learn about and challenge your own unconscious biases, practice empathy, be kind and patient, listen to what underrepresented folks have to say and amplify their voices, ask what you can do to help, like and share posts that you see that promote diversity and inclusion. And a new initiative this year, I don't expect people to be able to read those post-it notes, but there was a session where we talked about increasing diversity in the Postgres community in general at the Community Summit on Tuesday, and that was really great. People came up with a lot of good ideas, and that's the kind of thing that I would absolutely encourage everybody to be involved with. Share your ideas, listen to what other people have to say, and see what we can all do together. So as I said at the very beginning, perhaps one of the most important things is how can we help you? So I've touched on most of these things already through the talk, but some of the things that we can do to help you depending on your role. If you're organising a conference or a meetup or another event, reach out to us for suggestions and guidelines for creating an inclusive, accessible event. We can provide grants for diversity-related initiatives. We can provide diversity training for your volunteers, etc. If you're attending a conference and need financial assistance to travel, then you can contact us. If you're new to Postgres conferences and need a conference buddy, or if there's anything else that can make the event more accessible for you, reach out to us and we can have conversations. We might be able to provide financial assistance, and we can have a dialogue with the conference organisers to see what can be done to help there. If you're a conference speaker or you'd like to speak at a conference, we can offer mentorship. We can find someone to listen to you practice your talk. We can help with reviewing your slides for accessibility, etc. And if there's anything else that you need, then let us know and we'll see what we can do. And finally, list of a few things that you can do to stay informed and keep up to date with what we're doing. So to find out more about the task force, including reading about each of the committee members, you can visit the PGEU website. There's a link in the QR code there, and all of the links are also on the poster out in the hallway. You can follow our LinkedIn page, connect with us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. And most importantly, I think pick up one of the stickers that I talked about, because not only do they look adorable, but they're also a really great starting point for conversations. Thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for questions or...
Maybe one question, if it's... Okay.
Might be a long or a short answer, so thank you for this. It appears the initial work that you're doing is a lot of focus around events and conferences. Do you have any thoughts about applying this general theme to the online experiences? You know, obviously mailing lists, websites, and all of that. Is that maybe your next project, or maybe you want to answer that too, or?
It's a very good question, and yes, absolutely. At the moment, we're focusing on events because that's where we've had the most feedback that that's important to people. But feedback such as working on the mailing lists or other online experiences is a good idea. We will absolutely take that on board. That would have to be a whole community effort. That's not something that just the PGEU Diversity Committee can take on, because it's everywhere. But yeah, we're very much focusing first on the things where we know that people have already spoken to us about them, and there are things that we know we can do. But we are absolutely happy to listen to all suggestions and work on those. Resource dependent and volunteer dependent.
Thank you.
Do you want to add something, Stacey?
We have talked about website accessibility issues for the .org website, but that's not under our control. We're collecting information and feedback on that. We will get to that. Well, I'm saying we. The committee will get to that. I'm simply the advisor. But it is on their docket. It's just much further down. But it is something that the PGUS committee is also working on, and we're sharing information. So.